Yo guys, another GrubCast. This time it's going to be game number 1 of LEENOCK versus Striker of the Neely's N4C tournament. The qualifier number 2. The winner of this best of 7 will be traveling to Berlin, Germany for the first ever LAN tournament that I will also be casting for Age of Empires 4, which starts on March 5th. This is the first map. LEENOCK from Korea against Striker. I don't know from where. Enjoy the game.
That's really impressive. And LEENOCK, he was a fantastic StarCraft 2 player. Almost any time we met, definitely any time we met in competition, he always smacked me down something fierce. I had a couple of good games against him when I spent a week or two in a Korean team house, FXO, which he was a part of. And we would do like daily show matches, best of 5s, everyone. I got closer and closer to him and got a couple of victories, and the whole FXO clan was watching. But when it came to tournaments, oh man, this guy is so fast with APMs of 400 plus. LEENOCK is a beast. Now, on the other side, there's Striker. Were you surprised to see him come to this round of the game already?
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, we are already in game.
Yep.
Okay. And no, I didn't see Strike at all. Like ladder ranking, like he peaked at 20. Right now is at like 120. So really
That's
surprised
because of me.
You clapped him on ladder, or what?
Yeah, we had a couple of games. He got a little bit tilted. Not to brag or anything. This is no brag,
but you had to mention it regardless.
I had to kind of slip it in there. I mean, I wouldn't have said anything, Neely, except that my chat just reminded me. They're like, hey, Striker, isn't that the guy that you tilted out of his mind? And I'm like, I guess it is. And for information purposes, I should just mention it with no measure of pride.
Okay. Well, maybe something we could consider for a long set, that maybe if Striker goes down in some unfortunate scenarios, that LEENOCK might have an easier way of securing it than against someone that plays 100% every single game, if we were to assume that maybe some ladder performances could translate into tournament performances.
Yeah.
Certainly, LEENOCK, the way bigger name here, and the favorite on a lot of papers.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, LEENOCK got to rank 7 on ladder recently. I'm sure he's had a little bit higher as well. He even kind of, and I don't know if that's like a Korean thing or if he was just speaking metaphorically, but he said qualify or die. And I don't know if like his...
That was a stream title, right?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I hope that's figuratively, because I think that's extreme as much as he probably wants to go to N4C. I think he's gonna try again for a next tournament, but it goes to show that he's quite serious about wanting to qualify here. This means a lot to him.
Yeah, and like there's no one that had the dedication that he had, in the sense like how many hours he got in, how much he grinded it out, and it felt like he still didn't have the level when we had the EGC tournaments, their Winter Series, Winter Championship, but now it feels he got the time. The big question though, and that's something we will see today, some players say, okay, he's top of the world with like 3-4 civilizations, but with the best of 7, does he have the depth to go for it?
That's a great question, because LEENOCK, he used to only play the Chinese. He thought they were such an interesting civilization that for many weeks of Age of Empires 4 release, he was a Chinese one-trick. And it was even weird to see him on any different civilizations, nearly. But since then, he has definitely broadened his horizon, and you can see him on civs like French, on English. He loves to cheese people out with longbows on ancient spires and whatnot. So he has more depth. Let's see exactly how deep LEENOCK goes. As for Striker, let's talk a little bit about Striker. Striker, not as well known to some, but luckily we have some experience with him. Striker also plays a variety of civilizations, of course, as is required to make it far in any tournament, including this qualifier. And he actually thinks that Delhi is really, really strong right now. And who could disagree with that? He says it's one of his best. Now, you have me at an advantage here, Neely. Which civilizations were banned for each player? Wait, none, right? It's a best of 7.
Correct, indeed. We have the full choice. You're only not allowed to repeat a civilization, but very likely that if you feel comfortable with like Mongols, maybe Abbasid, maybe Delhi, and transition all those 3 wins, maybe just a Rus Mirror on Boulder Bay or something.
Oh God! Please no.
I don't even know if we have Boulder Bay, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know too, but
Striker has it, yeah.
okay. Okay, Boulder Bay. Oh, so they kind of allocate maps to themselves, is it? So that if you lose the first game, you have a preset map to go to. Is that how it works?
We have 8 maps in total, or 9 maps if you include Arabia. That will always be the start, and then both picked 3 home maps each.
Right. Are they in an order, or can you pick as you lose? Oh,
You
Striker.
can pick one out of all of your 3 home maps.
Okay, can pick any as you adapt in that moment. Understood. Okay, so we'll talk more about each player and their proclivities in surely between games and as we wait for next games and during next games. But let's talk about what happened so far in this game. We've got Abbasid Dynasty versus the French. LEENOCK as Abbasid, of course, and he's open up with a quick barracks in order to stop the predicted Royal Knights. The early Royal Knights get some spears out, and then a stables for the usual follow-up of archers.
Okay, but Striker, not sure if he will actually go for that many archers because he's already queuing up some scouts and went for professional scouts. So it feels like a heavy investment there when it comes to the cavalry. So won't really try to punish the spearmen.
Okay, interesting. So I don't think that in Age of Empires 4 you can see some kind of activity in the mill that highlights that it is currently working on a resource. So you kind of have to infer it based on the current gold count. Now, if you look at a gold vein, as a knight goes ham on a villager, and just checking, are you at 558?
Yes.
Okay, great. A knight goes ham on a villager, didn't get the kill there, and if we look at the military tab, we do see that there's 1 loss for LEENOCK, and I do believe that maybe was a villager a little bit earlier.
Maybe, let's take a look. Scout is still alive, so yeah, potentially. Oh, but the knight goes down actually. Sloppy by Striker.
Oh, wow. Losing a knight to horseman? Okay, you're 10% slower. Spears prepped you and the horsemen chase you down. But he lost a knight raw to a spearman, so that's a big mistake for Striker there.
Oh, wow. Not really what we would have expected. LEENOCK now feels like, okay, I dealt with those knights quite easily. Let's maybe think about using that fresh foodstuffs advantage a bit more. Goes for stone, thinks about the second town center.
Wow, okay. Going for that second town center, kind of the delayed second town center that we see. In the previous set, you and Aussie Drongo, great cast by the both of you, by the way. You guys talked about how the second town center was so common as, well, a knight goes ham, kills a stone villager there. How second town center was so common when Age of Empires 4 just launched. And I think a lot of that is just people trying to apply what they learned in StarCraft 2 to a whole new game. And then as time passed, we realized that a second town center is almost never possible in the first 5-6 minutes of the game. Even though we all came up with these cool builds, it's like, oh yeah, 5:15 I can start it, 5:30 I can start it. It didn't actually seem to be viable against a wide variety of different aggressions, and that has only cemented further and further as the game developed more and the meta developed more. Yet, LEENOCK is going for that second TC right now, but it is with a bit of a delay. It's a couple of minutes slower, and I do think it's a lot better when played in that fashion.
Plus, if your opponent is going for professional scouts, that's resources that are not put into immediate army.
Yes.
So therefore, maybe 2 fewer knights on the field as well. Aggression won't be that lethal against you, and you get a bit more breathing room, might get your second TC up a bit more uncontested.
Yeah, exactly, and I think that's a great point. Like that's still an expensive upgrade, that research for professional scouts, even though it's cheaper for the French, and it does show less early aggression. But on the other hand, it does make the hammer fall harder when it finally does fall. As a knight goes in, his charge actually gets braced by the spear, and that's a mistake right here. We've seen. I believe it was Doubt in Saturday's qualifier match. He would charge in on a Scholar on a Sacred side. It was either Doubt or it was against Doubt. But you charge in, you have to cancel the charge, and then you have to just auto-attack that villager. But he sloppily right-clicked the villager, and the way that works is actually interesting. That charge can be stolen by a spear that's standing next to it. So you have to move next to it and then do a regular auto attack. So he could have killed the villager, got away, instead the knight died. LEENOCK getting ahead in every little way here.
Oh yeah, and then the knight, obviously another big loss, and now the raid doesn't feel that scary, and LEENOCK double TC boom will feel really safe. It feels a bit like the left-hand side might be somewhat exposed, but Striker, not really having any army there, runs away with one of his knights. 3 more knights coming over. The archers still not on the other side of the map. I think I would have liked to see some more activity from them.
Yeah. Units that are standing still are not doing any kind of boot camp training. They're just inactive. And I guess the question is, did he expect some kind of spearman rush into his villagers? Then archers should be at home. If not, it's more likely a lack of multitask. Perhaps he's kind of protecting the professional scouts' deer retrieval here. But altogether, we have a second TC here. So we have this feeling, Neely, that LEENOCK is getting ahead economically, that it's only a matter of time until he's going to be in a great spot. But that's not really the case. If we look at the numbers, LEENOCK is at 33 economy against 38. It's 10-minute mark now. He threw up that town center at the 7+, maybe 8-minute mark. It's going to take at least until the 15-minute mark until LEENOCK will even ever have more money than Striker here. And Striker, he's got that pro scouts thing going on, so he doesn't need to spread himself as thin. He can bring deer carcasses home. He's going to make it to castle earlier. He could then go for veteran royal knights or even the kind of unheard of French men-at-arms flood, which is so hard to stop for Abbasid dynasty on feudal. At the moment, I think Striker's in a great spot, despite some mistakes. What do you think?
I'm a bit surprised how LEENOCK is that far behind in villages. Like, yeah, second TC wasn't super early. Yeah, French produced faster. But how are you 5 villages behind? I think I saw like 2 going down, more knights coming in. So I actually think, Striker, better pickups than I anticipated against the full spearman defense.
Yeah, for sure. There's we have 9 losses for LEENOCK. I think maybe 1 was a scout or 2. So I'd say we have about 7 villager losses, quite significant.
Then you have to ask yourself, LEENOCK, did he really need to expand that early? To the left-hand side, for example. Had to have spearmen there. Now, right-hand side woodline, maybe pull the villagers a bit to the extra town center. So maybe spread himself a bit more thin than he needed to.
Very possibly. A nice little counterattack here by LEENOCK, catching reinforcements just like he used to do in StarCraft 2 with his Zerglings, catching the reinforcements, making sure that those 2-3 archers dies and 1 knight goes back. So the army that's here is marooned for Striker, but he feels pretty good with that. That's a big army. He did get a weird upgrade from the blacksmith, 1 melee armor instead of 1 ranged armor, which means that knights are taking double the damage from town centers as they otherwise would. 2 damage per arrow instead of 1. That feels like a weird mistake, maybe a misclick, or maybe it's like, no, I want to reduce that spearman 35 damage to 34 or something. Like, how much is it actually? 29. He's now taking 1 damage less from those spearmen on his archers. 28 instead of 29. Like, that never mind, because of course archers don't have the bonus damage. But like, either way, that doesn't seem to make sense. But there is a big army here from LEENOCK looking to drive away Striker's force.
Still focusing down on the horsemen and spearmen there. I think maybe picking off 2-3 villagers extra might have been a better option, but now has to run with his knights away. Spearmen still taking quite some damage, but horsemen fighting the full clear up against the archers.
Wow. So he committed this army deep and he was looking for more kills, and that did not work out well for Striker. Economically, I think he was fine. He's at 47 against 42 economy, even now. And it's still going to take a long time for Striker even to draw even. In fact, he will have the same amount of villagers in about 30 seconds, which is really nice for LEENOCK. But Striker has been gathering more resources until now. He's had more to work with. He's had a better chance to make it to Castle Age or get better upgrades than LEENOCK. So what he really didn't want to have happen is to lose a sizable portion of his army in an overextension. And LEENOCK made that happen really nicely. Striker, he was deep, his reinforcements were cut off, but he didn't feel like that was worthy of an alarm. He stayed there and lost a lot of archers.
Now double archer range to compensate for that. Looking at the resources, 500 food, 800 gold. So Striker still lacking some food to get to Castle Age. Resources looking a bit better for LEENOCK to advance to it. And we are expecting the Culture Wing indeed flying in now.
Wow, this is incredible that LEENOCK is able to make it to castle earlier at the 14-minute mark after significant skirmishes, is now drawn even in villager count together with Striker. And of course, he's had to spend less food on those villagers, courtesy of fresh foodstuffs. where does it go from now? Do you think Striker should go feudal all in, or make it to his own castle, or maybe even throw up his own second town center? Where do you think it goes?
I think it's really important to scout what the opponent is going for. Are they switching into more men-at-arms? Are they staying on spearmen? Obviously, siege will be really tricky for you. I'm a big fan, as you mentioned earlier, Infamous play, maybe some men-at-arms, simply because we already saw so many spearmen out. Therefore, knight's not really a good option. And I think mass archers not really great if you face 1-2 mangonels.
Yeah, I think you're right. And men-at-arms are also far more resilient to the potential on-the-field siege engineering that Abbasid are wont to do. So that seems to be a good choice. French don't have anything special for men-at-arms. There are no enlistment incentives. They don't have any special upgrades, no bonus damage or health. But they're still men-at-arms. Like, they're pretty good.
They feel strong, right? We see so many army composition with men-at-arms for sure. Guildhall now coming up in the back.
We could have seen the different landmark. I think yesterday you were casting a match where the French player went for that bonus biology health upgrade from the university that you kind of pull forward into Castle Age. It was a French versus Delhi game, and those knights had 310 health at Castle Age, which is pretty cool. It's a bit cheaper and it comes out a lot earlier. But he's not going to go for that. He's going to go with the economic landmark and bank up some, what do you think, gold, stone?
I think typically with French, since everything costs food, I actually don't mind food. It feels so, it feels so, like since gold kind of feels scarce, that you want to go for gold, but I really like to get like 2,000 food and only for the late game set myself up for gold. But I might be, I'm going against the meta with my beliefs there.
Going against the green, rebellious Neely, watch out. He's gonna he's gonna wear his hat backwards and join a motor gang. This is actually not that crazy probably, because how do you generate more food? He's already gotten all the deer and the sheep. He would need to make more farms, which would mean that he needs to invest in wood and in food. It's a very long process. Well, let's see what he actually is going to go for. Right now it's generating food, but here comes in a big attack from LEENOCK, trying to hit that lean Castle Age timing that Abbasid players can do.
Yeah, and look at that army, kind of the army composition that we wanted to see from LEENOCK, but now Striker, he needs to show some great micro. Mangonels will do great damage against the archers and Spearmen to protect against the knights that could charge in. This is going to be a tough battle for Striker.
Yeah, I mean, what has he got to deal with these mangonels? He's got that bonus torch damage on knights, which could help, but he's speed building a siege workshop. He doesn't feel like he can run in, and who can blame him? There are 25 spearmen, and I don't think one melee armor is gonna save him from the wrath of those spearmen. Big attack there coming in with mangonels. He saves his villagers just in time.
Ooh, Scout getting away just barely in time as well. Nice save on those villagers, but that's how many farms already going down? Like 7, 8? Even if this is an equal trade, it feels like the economy will be severely damaged after this.
Yes, indeed. It does seem that way. He's lost many farms and the mill and so on.
Mangonels trying to find a better angle. Now Scouts being added here. Quite an interesting choice out of the town center. Same goes for the School of Cavalry. And Mangonels just really happy with forcing lots of idle time. And it just feels like raising Mangonels and rising numbers here for the veteran Spearmen makes it even tougher for Striker if he doesn't go for the tech switch. Where are the Springles?
He doesn't have them in production. Doesn't have the gold, to be frank. If we see, he's quickly, feverishly gathering gold towards that northwest side of the map. But his current gold bank is 98. The siege workshop is standing idle. It's like, what do you want us to do? I told you these things cost gold. Go get some gold first. And he finally accumulated enough resources to make a Springald, but he will be faced with many of his brothers in another color. There's 2 Springalds from blue already, from LEENOCK.
And that gets really tricky, right? You kind of build those to snipe the Mangonels, but if you die before, that won't really work out. Build a market, trying to juggle a bit with his resources, but it just feels like Striker needs at least 3 Springals to have a real chance to defend against this.
Exactly, at least 3, and he's making them one at a time, 30 seconds each. He just switched his gold hole to gold hole, his guild hole to gold. So he probably collected like what, 200-300 food from that.
Well, let's take a look. More villagers exposed next to the town center. Mangonels could maybe hit. Are they jumping in this time? No!
Huge hits there, huge connections. When we look at the military loss tab, it's 42 on Striker's side, 48 losses for LEENOCK. Some of those were villagers. We look at the villager tab right now, 48 for Striker, 56 for LEENOCK. You look at the income per minute, we've got LEENOCK doubling on gold. Fairly competitive both on food and wood. Both aren't gathering that much food right now, but it's gonna be changing as LEENOCK is exploiting various berries all over the map.
Oh, but the big fight is now coming in. Scouts from the bottom, some reasonable numbers. Spearmen are dealing with those, though. This is a nice 360 surround here.
360 surround coming in from three sides. Archers are shooting at the villagers that are coming up with an outpost. The archers need to ideally be taking out the spearmen, but LEENOCK has them very well positioned.
Oh, and Mangonel shot still really good against the archers that are trying to run away, but Spearman, as you mentioned, just protecting so well against the scout. All scouts down now. It's only the knights, but they still don't want to take this fight. They saw what happened to the scouts.
The one Springald is AFK for Striker, and his colors turn neutral. He yields. LEENOCK takes the first game here against Striker. Very well played.
Oh man, and that was a really nice methodical play. The Spearman defense, extra town center, and then this one execution push with the Abbasid where they really shine. It just feels like 2 minutes, 3 minutes after reaching Castle Age. Crazy power spike for them.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, Abbasid players, they can't just keep seeing the game as like a straight line. Okay, I'm in Dark Ages, I've made it feudal. They squeeze into Castle, which is often a big effort because of that second town center and everyone trying to kill him. And then in the third, in the final spot, you could say like, yeah, I'll keep going. Now I'm going to go Imperial. But that's not really what Abbasid players often want, is it, Neely?
Oh, they sometimes don't really care, right? It's just the W and French putting them into a tough position.
Yeah. So didn't go for Imperial this time because Abbasid players, they try to end in Castle. They've got that siege engineering, mangonel on the field construction, and they want to make use of that. Going to Imperial gives everyone a chance to win and outplay, but hitting strong early timing attacks that can end the game can feel a lot safer than just leaving it to Pandora's box of possibilities.
And yeah, we kind of said we would have liked to see some men-at-arms there. It felt like even men-at-arms against that amount of mangonels would have been tricky.
Yeah.
Maybe earlier Springald. Just feels like buying time was really needed for Striker.
When it comes to the guild hall, if he had kept it in food, like you said, and kind of gathered that up, that would help with the kind of resource allocation that men-at-arms require, which is 85% food and 15% gold. So then guild hall and food would be nice. When you look at what the knights did in that fight, archers died to Mangonel's Springald before they could really take out enough spears. And it's really meticulous work as well, trying to get 20, 30 archers to kill 25 spearmen. They may be the theoretical counter, but when you actually get down to the nitty-gritty of it, the mechanics, how many archer shots does it take to kill a spearman? Well, let's say it takes 10 shots. Are you going to micro 22 archers perfectly to kill 2.2 spearmen per volley? Most likely not. You're going to overfire on a single spearman with all the archers. So spearmen have a lot more theoretical health and tankiness into archers than you would think, just by sheer force of numbers. Here we have 26 spears with mangonels. Mangonels kill archers earlier than archers can kill spears, which keeps knights out of the fight the entire battle. LEENOCK felt very comfortable there. What would Men-at-Arms have done for Striker is that he actually sees Spearman. He knows the possibility of Mangonel creation. Now, Men-at-Arms actually counter both Mangonels and Spearman, which requires new units to be made for LEENOCK, either his own Men-at-Arms, Knights, or perhaps crossbows, which would be the most logical, as crossbows can also create Mangonels, whereas Knights cannot. And they're a bit easier to add in as they're a bit cheaper. And Spearman can tank for the crossbows into the men-at-arms, and then crossbows shoot him down. A different army composition required here. I feel like Striker stayed with plan A of the game, Knight Archer, and he never really deviated from it. And I wonder if it would have been possible for him to go men-at-arms instead. It would certainly have made the micro easier.